My name is Falke De Sager, and I'm a policy officer at Rederscentrale, which is the recognized producers organization of the Belgian fishing fleet, and also the professional association for Belgian fishing vessel owners. Rederscentrale represents all active Belgian fishers and plays a central role in ensuring the sustainable development of the sector, the economic viability, and the long-term future of our sector. My work mainly focuses on European legislation and also marine spatial planning. I also have the privilege of chairing the Spatial Squeeze Working Group under the Mid-Channel Conference. This working group brings together stakeholders from France, the Netherlands, the UK, and Belgium to address one of the biggest challenges for us, which is the rapid increase of competing activities at sea and the shrinking amount of accessible fishing grounds for our fleets. And through this role, I work closely with national administrations, European institutions, scientists, NGOs, and many other marine sectors to ensure fishers and Belgian fishers remain part of the conversation. From the perspective of Belgian fisheries, offshore wind power has influenced our sector in several significant ways. The first and most pressing issue is the scale and speed at which offshore renewable energy is being rolled out across borders. Each new project we see increased pressure on fishing grounds that are essential for our fleet's activities. As a result, wind farms are placed in areas that may not consider traditional activities such as fishing, leading to displacement of vessels and forcing them to increase activities and to crowd into smaller areas. Another challenge is the lack of clarity around environmental impact, the long-term ecological effects of offshore wind farms on, for example, fish stocks, ecosystem functioning, even food webs and sediment dynamics. They are still not fully understood. And without this knowledge, it becomes quite difficult to anticipate the real consequences for fisheries, but also for our marine ecosystems on which we depend. And ultimately, offshore wind has now fundamentally changed already how the fishing sector can operate. I think in most recent years, we've seen a dramatic increase in multiple pressures at the same time in a very small area. For example, if we look at the English Channel, the UK has announced over 40 new marine protected areas. Many of them are in the English Channel. There's also an increase in vessel traffic. There is energy projects, and they're expanding at a very fast pace, which makes it difficult to play into. And we see that these developments also overlap, which results in a significant and often sudden loss of operational space for fisheries. And I believe this is not only a Belgian problem, it also affects French vessels, Dutch vessels, British vessels, even other fishers with activities there. For example, to address this, fishers and their representatives within the Spatial Squeeze Working Group came together this year to produce a joint advice raising the alarm about the spatial squeeze and the displacement effects, trying to bring attention to this topic. People are realizing it's not possible to continue as usual. And if I'm looking at the case of wind farms, governance discussions have increased, especially around compensation, for example. But in practice, we don't really see this change yet. And fishers are often left to demonstrate the negative impact on their businesses themselves. And compensation cannot replace a stable, sustainable source of livelihood. So, if we want a balanced coexistence of maritime sectors, governance frameworks must move beyond simple compensation discussions and instead focus on integration, transparency, and long-term planning, if, in my opinion. I think it's very important to include socioeconomic impact. We see that we lose many little parts of space. It's never just one wind farm. And I think that's a very important aspect. And I think it can be taken into account as impact assessments can integrate cumulative effect. We made a step forward by creating the Greater North Sea Basin Initiative. I think it's a great forum to get this conversation starting. And I think it was a wake-up call for many people involved in the different sectors, but also in policy and management, that something needed to change. But I do think we need a lot more political pressure and not only governance to really establish a new way of looking at marine spatial planning and kind of finding a balance and a willingness to try something different.